Welcome to the Aleck Pain to Performance podcast, hosted by Dr. Jake Aleck and Dr. Kyle Richmond. Here we discuss health, fitness, and nutrition-related topics. Dr. Richmond and I are chiropractic physicians based out of Frankfort, Illinois. We treat all things pain. If you move it, we treat it. For more information about the clinic or us, check out AleckPainToPerformance.com. We appreciate your time and attention and hope you enjoy the show.
All right, guys, welcome back. This is Dr. Richmond with Dr. Aleck. Something we're going to talk about today is fitness trackers, and you recently kind of went to the dark side, or you got an Apple Watch now. You were Mr. Garmin for the longest time, and I just saw that this morning, which threw me for a loop. Yep. But all right, let's talk about it.
Well, so when I relate to patients, I am just like I'm a go-inner because I want to be in the weeds with everybody.
Yes.
And the amount of times I've heard people talk about closing their rings, seeing their sharing things and having the competitions with friends on there, I'm like, all right, well, I'll try it out.
The rings are a big deal. I mean, I'm constantly always looking down, and you'll see Olivia and I are always like, okay, how many steps you got? Have you closed your rings yet? It's a big deal.
But I was adamant, no notifications are on this thing. I'm not getting texts. I'm not getting emails because I can't do all that at once. So, so about 4 days ago, I picked up the Apple Watch and I went full because I have heard about how much they've invested into the fitness side of things, which people said they've done way better with. Mm-hmm. But I was a Garmin guy. Before that, I was a Whoop guy that was like almost exclusive, and you were one too. Yes. Exclusive activity tracker. I think back in the day, I wore this thing. I forget what it was called, but it was like the OG. Wasn't the Fitbit? It was before that, where it was like this band thing, and the app told you your steps because there wasn't even a screen on it.
Okay, I don't even remember that. That's very.
But I mean, that shows how long though these things have been in the works and how much they have given us. Yes. So, but there's layers to how you can use them, and I think that's what we're going to hit on today.
Yeah, let's go over kind of what are the main reasons that someone would want to use any sort of fitness tracking watch, whether it's Apple, Garmin, Whoop, the Oura Ring, any of those things. What's the major reason for getting one of these? Yeah,
I think it all starts with your initial first couple of weeks with it. Mm-hmm. Generally track what your normal is right now.
Yes.
Before you start using the data to say, all right, I am awful with getting enough steps in, or I am brutal at sleep. Mm-hmm. Just keep your lifestyle at bay for the first couple of weeks and just see where you're at. Right. And then once you get the data, it could say, all right, now let's tweak a couple things when I have X and O goal.
Right. So you're basically saying, hey, let's set what we call a baseline. Okay, what does that look like? Because you'll see a lot of people, they get their Apple Watch, they go out the first day, I got to get 10,000 steps, and they try to even crush that day in and day out.
Right, and it's not sustainable, right? So when you go about it, I always tell people, I say, when you first get whatever you got, act like it's not there. Maybe 2 weeks later, look back into the app and say, all right, what are my normals? Because when you suddenly start switching something, right, or when people fill out our intake works with nutrition things, their first day to work with us is their nutrition, start journey, and we say, all right, what was your, give me a breakdown of your daily habits of nutrition. Right. Well, before they set that appointment, they were hell-bent that today is my start to a journey of nutrition, so I'm going to eat nothing but great things today, and I'm going to fill that out that way.
Right.
And then we talk about it, like, all right, so a normal day is da-da-da, and they're like, yeah, how long have you been eating that way? About 2 days. And it's like, well, give me the real picture,
If you were eating like that, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Right. So when you treat it that way, and once you get the baseline, then we can kind of tweak, all right, what are we going to look at in the data that helps us tweak the things that we need to.
Right, because if you get an Apple Watch, first thing they set you at goals, essentially. They'll give you a certain amount of calories, exercise minutes, and then stand goal. Don't worry about tweaking any of that, because sometimes people right away want to be like, okay, I want to hit 60 minutes of exercise, but they may have only been doing 15 to start with. So like you said, pretend like it's not there.
Yep.
Okay, so the biggest things for them is the move goal, the exercise minutes, the stand, and then the steps. So let's kind of hit on those. Let's go, why would we want to use the move goal?
Okay, so could we do steps first? Because that's steps. Everyone's. All right, so pretty much every tracker does this besides Whoop, right? So Garmin, Apple Watch, Fitbit. Steps was like the initial, hey, are we moving enough throughout the day? Right. And I think steps is a great way to gauge just general activity because you have to be up and moving in order to get them. Mm-hmm. Unless back in the day when you just kind of did one of these and got them going, right? So steps is a great activity tracker because you have to be upright and going. And with now today's lifestyle of sitting for such a long time throughout people's workplaces or days. If you got to be up to get steps and walking, it's a great way just to say, all right, I'm not doing the conventional sit all day or even sleeping at night. It's I'm up moving, getting my movement.
And I think there's something very important there, because like why we really care about the steps versus like the stand goal. The stand goal is great, but it really only counts if you stand 1 minute out of that hour. And what we know is, okay, sure, you stood for 12 hours that day. It could have been 12 minutes, and you may have not even done much movement. So there's a big push for a while. Hey, we got to stand instead of sit all day. But if you're just standing, it's really not that much better than actually walking and moving. Right.
And it's so yeah, you hit that on the head. So Apple did a great job kind of layering, right? So there's steps they give you. They give you a stand goal. So the goal of the stand goal is it tracks, do you stand for a whole minute within blank hour of the day, every hour of the day. So I think when it first gives you your watch, you have to have 8 hours of standing, or 12 hours. 12 hours of standing. So you have to stand for 1 minute in 12 hours of the day. So from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., did you stand for a minute? 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., did you stand for a minute? It's cool because it gets people up from sitting, which most people are in. But if I was to kind of like change the gizmo of Apple, I would say, are you standing or / up for 10 minutes in an hour? And I would have that be more important than just 1 minute, because I can stand for a minute. Yeah, it kind of gives me some release, we know, in the joint world. But gosh, having 10 minutes versus 50 minutes of sitting is much better in standing than just 1 minute. But again, it's a start.
I agree. So we crushed steps, great thing to do. Okay, standing is a thing. Now, what about the exercise goal in there? How should we utilize that?
Yeah, so exercise should be an intended blank time of your day. So 20 minutes, 30 minutes, hour, 90 minutes, that your goal is exercise. Whether I'm someone that does resistance training, so I do weights, or I'll do running, or I'll bike, or I'll walk. Whatever my goal of that day is, I'm only tracking that as exercise, because Apple does a great job by saying, all right, if you're about to do resistance training, you click start resistance training, strength training, and then every minute that you're in resistance training, it goes towards your exercise goal. Well, if I'm resistance training that day, I'm not going to track my walk to work here as exercise. I'm not going to track my my cars in the morning as exercise. But if my only priority of a day is joint training, I'm tracking cars, I'm tracking my hip stuff that I'm doing, because that is my exercise of the day, right? So whatever your intention on doing better that day, that should be tracked as exercise.
Right, because like if you're someone who's just starting, okay, my goal is just to walk every day, that's your exercise. But what you're saying is, hey, I plan on going to the gym and resistance training, but I'm also walking. We're not counting all that walking as your exercise. Let's say you're at the gym for 30 minutes, but I did 45 minutes of walking. Yeah, but our goal should be that resistance training that day.
Yeah, because then now it just gives you a more accurate time. Because say I start with, I want 30 minutes of exercise a day. Okay, well, 30 minutes of walking could be total exercise. Or it can say, I'm going to the gym and I'm doing resistance training. All right, you're going to do 30 minutes of resistance training. Put it on, and that's your deal. So when you track it that way, because otherwise I can just kind of, for someone like myself, where walking's not my first layer of exercise, if I just track that, my exercise goal goes like this.
And you could say, I did 6 minutes of exercise every single day, but it's like, well, that should be like your standard. Okay, are you hitting your steps? Yes.
Exactly.
There's a big difference on that.
Right. And we'll have patients where we want their exercise to be strictly walks, because that's the first step into getting that ingrained and make it in a habit, right? So there's a great way of using that. But once you're kind of already deep into the woods, you don't need to have walking, unless walking is a recovery day and that's your 60 minutes.
And that's the intent of that day. It's all about what the goal is. So
what the intent is.
Like we said, there's definitely some layers to using these. And then kind of the last one is like, okay, the move goal. And I think a great thing for this is people kind of get very set on, I have to burn 1,000 calories. I have to get my watch that. What I think we should use the move goal for is just a standard amount of movement we should hit that day. So if your standard is always 1,000 calories on there, okay, well now for 3 days I only hit 500. We know we just didn't do enough activity. It's not that I didn't burn enough calories. It's just saying, hey, I didn't move enough.
Right. And in the move goal, I think has something to do with a little bit of heart rate too.
Oh yeah, right? Yeah, it's all definitely heart rate stuff.
So you can be sit to stand all day. You're not going to hit your move goal. right?
If you don't go for that walk or that exercise that day, that move goal is
right. Or just active with your kids, or
anything,
sports or hobbies, whatever it is. Like if you play a round of golf, I'm sure you're gonna hit your move goal pretty quick, right?
Easily.
So movement, and again, the other layer is now like deliberate. I'm doing something with my body, get my heart rate changed a little bit. And heart rate is a huge factor in health, because you got to have times where it's a little bit higher, you got to have times when it's lower, and that variability is what keeps us fit, you know? And I think Apple does a great job on making move part of the equation, because now it's, all right, you're not just sitting and standing all day. Right. You're not just, walking at a slow, medium pace all day, although that's good.
Right.
And you're not just getting exercise in, say it's just joint training and not varying your heart rate. But now we're going to throw a move level in there that requires you to change your heart rate and get it up and get it down every so often to get that goal too.
Right. And I think you touched on a good point is, yes, it's all based on heart rate. These things aren't actually they don't know how many calories you're truly burning. Mm-hmm. It's a guesstimate, so that's what we want to use it as. Right. Don't treat it as like this is my one way to track all my progress. But it's a great thing to keep you accountable.
Yeah.
I think if anyone's looking to start, kind of say, hey, what's my goal? If your goal is steps, awesome. Grab an Apple Watch. If you don't want to do that, though, even your iPhone, if you go to the health app, you can even just track steps on that. If that's your intro to moving. But if you want to get a little more kind of detailed on these things, I would recommend picking up some sort of fitness tracker.
Yeah. And it can be as simple as a $40 Fitbit. I mean, there's a $40 Fitbit online that just has a screen that's this big, and it says only steps.
Yeah.
So sometimes when people are really just getting into the woods of it, it's like, well, all this data, all this, like, I don't need all these, flashy buttons at me. I just want to track my steps. Perfect. Let's start with, we saw on their phone, like their phone may have 3,000, 4,000 steps average per day. All right, you're going to put this on your wrist. Now it tracks everything versus just the steps that you have with your phone. Mm-hmm. And let's make 5,000 your goal. Perfect. And they crushing that. Now they're super consistent with their with their small $40 Fitbit. Okay, I want to kind of get into run walking. Mm-hmm. All right, what's something that's better at that? Maybe a Garmin, maybe an Apple Watch.
Right. I think that's a great point. You don't have to spend a ton of money just to start getting into fitness stuff like this. Like, you don't have to have an Apple Watch in order to start tracking all these things. Right. You can start very fundamental on, again, like you said, $40 on a Fitbit. They're not super expensive, and then go from there.
Simple. The best example I have of this is, say a 12-year-old kid wants to have this $400 toothbrush. It's the platinum, crazy different, a lot of, spindle speeds and all these things, and it whitens, it does all these things, but they only brush their teeth once a week. It's like, Johnny, I'm not getting you this $400 thing, and you're only brush your teeth once a week.
Right.
Show me that you can be consistent and brush your teeth in the morning and nighttime and stay and ride the tide, and then maybe we'll scale up to that thing because it shows that it's important to you.
Right.
And I'm kind of a living testament of that, because I've made fitness my entire life growing up, and so I've gone through all these different trackers just to see and have stories so I can kind of allude to people, all right, this one would be great for you, this one would be great for you. And it's fun because now I'm kind of getting into the weeds of Apple.
The Apple.
Now I'm learning about that.
I feel like most people even just bought the Apple Watch just because it looked cool. It was something you could check your messages on, and like, oh yeah, it tracks fitness too on there, in case you want.
People are definitely kind of getting into it in different reasons. So.
Well, I think we hit on all the big topics here.
Yeah, so again, and just a quick summary of different trackers. The Apple Watch is kind of the one thing that does all the Swiss Army knife of everything, right? The Garmin is kind of more specific for cycling athletes, running athletes, triathlete athletes.
A lot of your endurance athletes, I see you wear those.
It's the nuts and bolts of everything that you can get of data of endurance, okay? But it kind of does, they've been getting into more, all right, you can track your reps for strength and things like that. So they're definitely, spreading their wings a little bit. Whoop is a band.
That's more recovery based, I would say.
Yeah, so there's no screen to it. No. It's just a band on your deal, and you have an app that goes with it. Mm-hmm. It tells you your recovery score that you wake up with, so how well your body's prepped for the day. Right. It gives you some calories burned as well. It tells you how you slept the night before. Just a different approach there. Yeah. If you want to see the time on your wrist, don't look into them.
God, yeah. If there's one thing I could say, please put a watch on that thing. Yeah. That would make.
I think
that way I don't have to wear both.
You're one of many. You're one of many. And then lastly, I think the Oura Ring is another one where it's a little bit more recovery based, like Whoop. Mm-hmm. Doesn't really have a watch, so but it tracks steps too. I think they're doing now. And then lastly, the OG Fitbit is just the one that is low barrier entry. figure out what your steps are, and it kind of gets you going.
I think even Fitbit now has, screens on and everything that tracks other aspects as well.
Different levels.
There's definitely, it's not like Apple Watch, it's really just one thing. Fitbit has a bunch of different levels.
Yeah, and the Polar is another one, kind of similar to Garmin in the endurance world.
Right.
So, but yeah, let us know about any of those if you've had experience with them, but just kind of our intake of health and technology combo. I think they're a great marriage into today's world.
Yes.
But also, and the psychology aspect of this, don't be obsessed with all numbers, right? They're a great gauge on, wow, last week I was a sludge, I was not moving at all. I got to get back on my horse. Okay, let's kind of gradually, I can see that with my rings not being closed anywhere near where is normal. But also don't be obsessive, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to leave this dinner early to get my steps in order to hit my 50,
You see that. It's like, oh, I got an hour before I go to bed. Oh, I need to hit this exercise, stand and move goal, and they're trying to just go crazy. Okay, call it there, but use it as a baseline. What do I need to improve on?
Yep. Quick last story. I was on a 4-hour flight last night, 3 days into the Apple Watch. My wife thought I had to use the bathroom 4 times throughout the flight. Hit my stand goal every time. She's like, really? Your 4th time going to the bathroom? I'm like,
you're one of those guys.
I got my 4th stand goal. So a little obsessive on the first couple of days, but it actually panned out well. Did some got the back moving well throughout the flight. So all right, well, thanks, and see you soon.